What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for September 6th, 2021. We have a monthly report to go over, as well as a ship shape in ISC like this is 2015. And is Squadron 42 priority trying to slow down Star Citizen's progress again? All this and more in today's Week in Review. And if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news and pile it into one video and throw my opinions in there as well. Also, I do live stream on twitch.tv/SaltEMike, so if you guys want to stop by and say hello and talk about any of the subjects that we talked about today, you can do that. I stream every day but Monday starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. But we do have quite a bit to get through, so we're going to start out with the monthly report because we did not have any patch notes this week. We'll start out with AI. They talked about an AI reaction system, and the example they gave is, I don't know, the AI reacting to a gunshot and giving appropriate responses. You know, the NPC will stop typing, let's say, and act accordingly to the shots. They're also prepping for dealers, which sound like guys with like big trench coats that sell weird stuff out of them. So yeah, dealers in the game. Then moving on to AI tech, I think this is a big one to follow, because if you aren't following the development of the navigation missions on planets, you should be. This is what is needed for AI ships to navigate specifically on planets, or AI, I think even just NPCs and FPS players to navigate on planets. They can now place NPCs on planets, and that's kind of a big deal. And a player in Squadron 42 can now lead a formation of AI ships. The PU should get this in the future. I think that we'll talk a little bit more about this later in the video, in the video update section. Then moving on to animation, I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like this entire update is for stuff that's being worked on for us to see at CitizenCon, but not use for a long time. But this is not this first part, at least. Medical behaviors should be animations that we see in 3.15. The pyro stuff all seems like it's for CitizenCon vendor things for pyro, and then cowering and surrendering behaviors were mentioned as well. I feel like this is probably something for a CitizenCon like demo, right? Then moving on to character art. Apparently they're replacing the Pembroke suit. This is the hot armor that we use to like mine. I think we're mining mostly on, what was it? Not Lyria. I can't remember. Aberdeen, I think, in the Hurston system, and you would always have to bring the Pembroke suit so you could stay alive while doing it. I guess it was never meant to be a red-colored version of the Novikov suit that we saw at CitizenCon 2019, which is the cold suit. So they are making a new version of it. Then there's backpacks. They're making a few new ones, but they're also removing the old ones from the armors and separating them out, making them their own thing. And then in the future, it sounds like each new armor will come with its own separate backpack. I don't know if this includes all armors, but I mean, I guess it should, because it's a major inventory thing, and inventory is important. Then moving on to ship art, the Redeemer is almost in final art. The Hull A is almost white box complete. Hull C is in its gold standard rework. Refuel is almost complete. Tractor beam work, which is part of refining, it sounds like. The A2 passed final art. Ares is done with final art also. The Drake Vulture is nearing gray box complete, and there were multiple unannounced ships and vehicles that were mentioned in this section. Probably all at CitizenCon, right? Engine. This new QT system dubbed as physical quantum travel seems to be moving along. We'll have to see how this plays out when we can actually use it. It is hard to kind of read it and understand exactly how it'll play out and how we'll use it. They mentioned a lot about the Gen 12 renderer and specifically improving clouds on our GPUs. Some stalls and optimization needed for server meshing as well was worked on in this section. Character features was mostly bug fixing, but you know, they mentioned a few. Looting players had only ship weapons, and when players were on a gurney, it bounced them around until they died. So I mentioned this part in this video because looting and medical, these are things that are coming in 3.15. So seeing that they're in the game, they're testing them out, there's bugs, they're working on them. 3.15 is probably, you know, approaching pretty soon, so it's good to see that they're working on those things and focusing on those specific things in general. Gameplay features, they progressed on the Knickknacks app. which is how we manage our inventories in the game in the future. That app is now feature complete. They also are working on Jumptown 2.0, the technical design documents for Cargo Refactor, shopping, and selling, all worked on and should be reviewed soon by like CR and stuff like that. And once those are done, then I think they can start the implementation into the main game branch and try it out and things like that. So we'll have to see how those kind of play out for either hopefully 316 or a little bit sooner, or CitizenCon or something like that, right? Vehicle features, jump points. I think we're obviously getting a revamp of the 2019 CitizenCon where the jump point is more realized how the players will use it. Bombing is finishing up, and they helped out with refueling as well. Player relations. I've never mentioned player relations in a monthly report on Week in Review before, but they did something awesome. They created a player relations live QA, and they work on the live servers dealing with the live experience, which is always worse because of the performance and other issues that we don't really necessarily know about. They're already working on making sure that Evo is better in 3.15. So this is very, very good, very, very exciting. Probably how they found those bugs for the gurney and looting, right? Systemic services and tools, a lot of Quantum was mentioned here. Still no clue on like when this is going to be in-game and in our hands, which is really the only thing that matters, right? Maybe CitizenCon will give a loose date. Maybe they will totally miss it for years, and yeah, it's just what we're used to, right? Turbulent services. Crash handling should be a little bit better, and their side of the server meshing project is done. Many optimizations were made as well. And then finally, vehicle tech. Radar scanning and the ping refactor is now complete for vehicles, and they're looking forward to pushing it out to FPS players, right? And we'll have to see what happens with that. We've heard a little bit about that for the last few months. Moving on to video updates, we had an ISC, which is a ship shape. And I'm not going to run down on this much to here because that wasn't English. I'm not going to run down like this information that much because it's actually so out of date. It's kind of crazy. What we just read about in the monthly report is way ahead of the video that we're going to watch here on ISC. So not a very good job of planning and like information putting out there for the, I guess, the content team at Star Citizen here. But we'll start out with some of the interesting tidbits that you may or may not have known. So for the Drake Vulture, it's planned for next year, and it will come with ship-based salvage. We know very little about what that means, but you know, the most recent statements about what Tier 0 salvage is it was like hull scraping. So we'll have to see how that plays into, because the Vulture seems like it's a more deeper experience than hull scraping, right? So we'll have to see how that plays out. The Ares, Starfighter, Inferno, and Ion, these were described as anti-capital ships, and basically one of the things that they were working on was that Civ 7 gun is so big that they struggled to make the cockpit view good, so that was a lot of the work that went into that ship. The Gladius and Saber Gold Standard reworks are ongoing, and there's something about the Saber Gold Standard rework that it's going to be shared at CitizenCon, so we'll have to check that out. And then Redeemer, they talked a lot about us, the ship that we bought back in the day, and how they tried to really keep to what that ship was, but they also mentioned that its role changed from a dropship to a gunship, so that is something there. Then we have a sprint report, and we're going to start out with weapon concepts from Volt, because these look awesome. So they're electron damage weapons. The SMG was the first one. I think it looks amazing. Then they showed an LMG, which definitely does feel like it's lacking and doesn't feel like an LMG. And then a sniper, which isn't electron damage, I think, because we already have one. And the looks are still kind of the same to the electron damage weapons, which I think is kind of weird. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And then we saw laser trip mines. I think the use case is obvious for these, but seeing them in engine is cool. Also, I think the puzzle test in the background is also important to have seen here. Cousin Crow's ship customization shop at Orison, but they almost immediately said that it won't have all of its full features in 3.15, but will in later patches. So Don't expect much from this one. And Crusader Showcase, another place that has little to no point in the game other than role-playing and looking around and going, ooh, wow, and then you're done with it, right? Auxiliary lighting states, they show every possible location, including Levski, what it looks like when you turn off the lights. So it just shows how little content is actually in this game and how little content they are willing to show us until CitizenCon. Wow. Glass window shader. This basically makes tall buildings look like New York City at night, where some of the office lights are on, things like that. I think it looks really cool. Hospital UI. They showed types of injuries, and even a tooltip comes up telling you to take meds for the symptoms of your injured leg. And then lastly, cybernetic concept limbs. I don't think there's too much to see here. They're so far away, but it is cool to see all the possibilities and styles. It's just neat looking, right? But then we had an SCL. Now, this SCL is a really big deal. There is a big shakeup with at least the FPS side of Star Citizen, focusing solely on Squadron 42, in a way. So Richard Tyrer and his entire pillar that he looks over is going to make features for Squadron 42, and then those features may or may not come to the PU. So, given that shakeup, let's hear what's going on.
Previously, there's the actor feature team, and the actor feature team had one leg in the Persistent Universe and the other leg in Squadron 42. Now, with this reorganization, that's really what we're talking about here, the actor feature team now flows directly into Squadron 42, and then when it completes its work on features for Squadron 42, then those features get handed over to the Persistent Universe.
Yes.
Personally, I feel like this is the best explanation we got. They tried to explain it like 30 times, so I clipped that out. There's actually not going to be too many clips from this video because they just explained the same thing multiple times in different ways to try to get us to understand what was going on. But I really think Jared hit the nail on the head. It's as simple as everything they're doing is for Squadron 42 now. It will be fleshed out there, and then it will come to the PU in a better state than we normally get things. So, again, how will this affect the PU? We'll let them use their words and say how I feel about it after.
But what it does do is that if people who are looking at the roadmaps and the delivery maps, they might go, oh, this is coming later. It's not because it's being made later. It's just because we're proving it out. And when it does come, it should be a better experience because we are no longer committing to PU releases. It's the PU content teams that are committing to the releases. And they're committing to adding a feature with the content, relevant content. So rather than body dragging coming in Q1, it might come in Q3 or Q2 or Q4, depending on how big the feature is or how much the content is. But it will come with the relevant content to support that feature. So it would be, hey, this is a mission where you've got to go get an injured person. You've got to body drag them back to your medical triage center. So that's kind of, it's the mentality of how we deliver the content and how we deliver these features to the audience.
I also think this was the best clip of audio that we can get as to how PU players will be affected. Star Citizen players, how will we be affected by this? We get the features later, but they're not going to come to the PU without a purpose like they normally do. They were mentioned body dragging and the push-pull mechanics and things like that. They're actually delivering content instead of empty features, we hope. Essentially, what's happening now is the people who created the features, I think we've talked a lot about looting in this case in Week in Review, where all of the people that we saw talking about looting are the coders and the people who bring it to life in the game and make it a reality, but they don't add the content to it. Those people are the ones who have been delivering features to Star Citizen for years. And now, in this case, at least with the FPS mechanics, and actor status, and all the Richard Tyrer pillars, are going to make features, make content for them in Squadron 42, return those features to people who make content in the PU, give them tips and pointers about how they did it in Squadron 42, and then deliver it in a way that makes sense in the PU. So instead of the people who make the feature delivering the feature to the PU, the people who make the feature fun are going to be the people who deliver the features into the PU. If this works, this is going to be much, much better for players who want a game in Star Citizen like myself. Much better. But, as always, it comes at a cost, and it's probably going to take a little bit longer to get the features that we want, but at least they might be fun. We'll have to see. I think there's a lot of other factors that come into play here. I don't think we're going to see things like salvage, the economy, I don't know, every item having a purpose. I think there's a lot of things that need to happen to make Star Citizen fun besides this. And again, this seems like it's only the FPS experience, but we did see things mentioned in the monthly report, like the Pembroke suit and some animations and things that were being worked on for Squadron 42. I think specifically the being able to have a wing of AI ships, being Squadron 42 focused first, but then us getting it later. So I think they are doing this. This might be a company-wide initiative to be doing these things, but we'll have to see. Then, lastly, moving on to other updates, we had a sneak peek where it showed a new weapon attachment. So there's a chance, a slim chance, that they'll be bringing more weapon attachments to the game for looting. Hopefully they'll matter, since the current weapon attachments don't really do too much. Then there was server maintenance this week on September 3rd for Xeno threat. Apparently it wasn't starting very often, so they did some server maintenance to make sure that happened. There was a lore post. It was all about Dying Star, so if you're interested, the link for that will be in the description. And then for Xeno threat, which should end today, I believe, the rewards. Stormknife posted on Spectrum to let us know that all you have to do is get into that third tier, and you do not have to fill the bar to gain all the full rewards of Xeno. So there you go. And with that, guys, that will do it for today's video. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate you guys stopping by. So make sure you leave a like, comment down below on anything we discussed today, anything I might have missed, and yeah, make sure you hit subscribe for more weeks in review, and I'll see you guys next week.